Alright, so I have watched one of the big Oscar players of the season, Maestro, starring Bradley Cooper and Carey Mulligan, and directed by Cooper. Here is my no spoiler review. So I've definitely had my eye on this movie for many months. I saw some behind the scenes stills. Some of the first pictures we saw, I want to say it was around March, April, earlier this year. And just based on a few things, Bradley Cooper directing his first feature film since A Star is Born, and Bradley Cooper being such an Academy Awards favorite, he's been nominated 9 times, and the fact that he's playing a real person, a famous conductor, and the intense physical transformation. Everything about Maestro I saw earlier in the year, before there was even a trailer, before we knew where it was premiering, what time of year it was actually going to come out. Maestro looked on paper in so many ways as a big Oscar player going into 2024. And now that I've finally watched the movie, I have to be honest, I had some issues with the third act. This is not going to be a rave review by any means, but for about, I would say, an hour 15 minutes, this movie is divine. There's so much I love about it, and it's absolutely worth your time. Maestro is not necessarily going to dominate award season, but it's going to do well, and it's especially going to do well, I think, in one specific category, which I'll touch on in a moment. So Maestro explores the relationship between American composer Leonard Bernstein and his wife Felicia Montealegre. We learn that Bernstein was having relationships with men, but he does fall in love with Felicia, and pretty much right after they have a magical night together, they are married, they are having kids, having a family. This is not a biographical movie that centers on just one period of time in someone's life. We do get more of a sweeping canvas here, going across decades, all the major emotional bullet points. One of the best elements of Maestro, in my opinion, is that Bradley Cooper does not have this movie just be about Bernstein, and his wife is a supporting player, only showing up in scenes that are about him. Felicia is fully half or more of this movie's narrative, what we care about. Carey Mulligan gives an excellent performance in this. She imbues life into this woman from when she's very young to when she's much older, knows so much more about her husband and what makes her happiest in life, where she goes for that joy. This is not a movie just about a famous conductor. It is primarily about the relationship between the two and how it evolves, where it crumbles. That is a part of Maestro I adore because these are obviously very interesting people, and having powerhouse actors like Cooper and Mulligan sharing many scenes together throughout this film. Like, they are often captivating to watch. They work so well together, have an amazing chemistry, and you see that chemistry play out often in very long takes. Another thing I love about Maestro is Bradley Cooper really coming into his own, having great confidence as a filmmaker, and not letting a bunch of scenes play out in 5, 6, 7 different angles. Like, there is a moment in this movie where Leonard and Felicia have an argument in their home, and the director, Cooper, could have shown us close-up after close-up, over the shoulder, going in for the tears, the rage. The whole scene is played out in one shot from basically across the room. Like, you can barely even see their faces. And it's 3-4 minutes, maybe 5, of just one shot, kind of locked off, the camera doesn't move, and you just get to see their behavior, how they interact with each other after many years have passed in their relationship. And it's moments like that where I was like, okay, Bradley Cooper is an amazing director as well as an actor. I thought he did a stellar job with A Star is Born a few years ago. And now with Maestro, honestly, I'm very excited for any film Cooper is going to make as a director. Whether he's in it or not, like, I will be seated He makes so many excellent choices in this movie. The way he starts Maestro with this incredible shot that like goes up to the ceiling and goes to a bunch of different spaces. Cooper knows in Maestro when to be flashy with the camera and when to just lock it off and let a scene play out, not filled with 1,000 edits. Let's just see the acting and the behavior of these characters. Like, this does not feel like Cooper's second film as a director. It feels like it's number 7, number 8. It's kind of amazing, honestly, what he captures here as a director and just how good he is as an actor, as a performer in the movie too. We see it here and there throughout the years. A great actor directs himself in a movie, and the performance itself is also impressive. I mean, I can't even imagine how hard that would be to direct a movie and you're also in it and you're like the main character and you have to believably age over decades and you have to be a believable conductor, sometimes in scenes that play out also in long takes. The best shot in the movie is a moment of Leonard conducting. The camera does move this time. It floats around this huge space with hundreds of extras for at least 3 minutes. And it is one of the most startling shots in cinema of 2023. I was breathless at the end of the shot. And it definitely was a shot in Maestro that made me very sad. I was just watching it at home on a TV. Like, that shot and some other moments in the movie would be incredible on a theatrical screen. Unfortunately, most people are going to be watching it at home on Netflix, and they're going to see it the way I watched it a few nights ago. But this felt to me like a movie Cooper made for the big screen. If there's any opportunity to see it that way, I would recommend that. The cinematography of Maestro is gorgeous. We stay in black and white for a while. We're in black and white for the early part of Leonard's life, him meeting Felicia, and then once some time has passed and they've had a family, then for the most part, it's in color, the rest of the movie. Everything to do with the costume design, the art direction, the music. Oh my God, the music in this movie. The scenes where he's playing music, when we just have score behind us, the song choices and some of the party scenes, like all of the music in Maestro. Just that is a reason to see this. It's really, really strong. And both Cooper and Mulligan are absolutely Oscar worthy. I do think they're both going to get acting Oscar nominations for this. Best Actress, as I've talked about in many videos, is extremely competitive this year. There are like 12 plus amazing performances this year, battling it out for those 5 slots. I do think Carey Mulligan probably makes it. I mean, she has the physical transformation. She gets lots of showy scenes in Maestro, a lot of moments of restraints. Felicia gets a complete arc over the course of the movie. And Mulligan is a pro every step of the way. I've been such a huge fan of hers ever since In Education in 2009. She was Oscar nominated for that film, and she was nominated for Promising Young Woman in recent years. I do think Maestro will give Mulligan her 3rd Oscar nomination. I don't think she's going to have a prayer in winning anything this season. As much as I admired the performance, I don't think it's quite at the level of a couple others that are going to be in the Best Actress race. But I really do hope Mulligan makes it in. Now, Best Actor is a different story. I was thinking it before I even watched this movie, and even though I had a couple issues with it, as I'll talk about here shortly, I do think Bradley Cooper is coming for his first Oscar win. I just don't know how they're going to pass him over for a 10th time. Now, I should mention not all of those previous 9 Oscar nominations are for acting. Some of them are for producing, like his most recent nomination was for producing Nightmare Alley a couple years ago. But in acting, he was nominated for Silver Linings Playbook and American Hustle and American Sniper, films with American in the title apparently, and A Star is Born, of course. Like, he has proven his worth as an actor for many years now, and in Maestro, he does give one of his best performances. He's always believable as a conductor. You see the passion, the emotion in his work, what it takes to be as good as this man was. The quieter scenes with Felicia ring true. Seeing him age over many decades always works. Cooper as much older Leonard in the final 20-ish minutes, you believe it, you buy it, that he is that old. Like the way he carries himself, his body language, he really does feel like an older person. I never quite sensed any tricks in his performance, like he's trying to do this and that to stand out, and there was never any of that. I mean, I personally prefer a few other major lead performances by men this year, like Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer, Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers, Coleman Domingo in Rustin, but there is no denying the power of this Bradley Cooper performance, especially that long shot of him conducting, sweating, running to see his wife. Cooper is great in this film, and it does feel like this is probably the performance that's going to win Best Actor at next year's Oscars. I just don't know at this point if there's going to be enough competition to bring him down. I mean, I feel like Cillian Murphy is his closest competitor, and if Oppenheimer goes on to win Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, maybe Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr., it does feel like Cillian Murphy can win. If Maestro kind of underperforms throughout award season, gets a few Oscar nominations, but not a whole lot, and Oppenheimer is just kind of sweeping the season, doing great, then there might be cause for concern in terms of Bradley Cooper's Oscar chances for Best Actor. But the Academy loves a big physical transformation, and you definitely get that in Maestro. And the performance Cooper gives is so much more than that. This would be a worthy Best Actor victory at the 96 Academy Awards. I do think, as of this moment, it's happening. So yeah, there's a lot to recommend about this movie. It's absolutely worth seeing. I really enjoyed it for a while. But to be honest, there were a couple things that held me back from loving it, like with a capital L. I don't think overall Maestro is at the level of some of the great films I've seen in 2023. Movies like Oppenheimer, Poor Things, The Holdovers. It's one notch down, in part because I found the third act of the movie, which I'm not going to give away here, kind of pedestrian. Like, I felt like we had seen this kind of story before, and the way it's told doesn't have quite the amount of confidence, boldness, unpredictability of that first hour plus. Now, I understand this is a true story. It's about a relationship between two people who existed, who had this relationship. And so if we're going to see their entire lives, we have to be honest and show what happened toward the end. And so it's not about necessarily what happens to the relationship, what happens to Felicia and Leonard in old age. It was just the presentation of it. The presentation of what happens to these characters felt very familiar and not as exciting and fresh as so much of the first half of the movie feels. And then Maestro, after 2 hours and 10 minutes or so, just kind of ends. It doesn't have a big emotional catharsis. It didn't end in a place where I was like, oh my God, I have to tell everybody to see this movie. There is this one glorious shot of Leonard at the end that was pretty striking. I won't give it away here. And I was like, oh, this could be interesting. We're finally going to explore this side of Leonard at the very end of his life. But then there's like one more quick scene and the movie's over. And I was like, oh, okay, that was just a little aside. We're not going to go very deep into that. And that takes me to my second major criticism of Maestro. I know there's only so much you can explore in a 2-hour film when the character of Felicia also gets a lot of scenes in this running time. But all throughout Maestro, I felt the depiction of Leonard's bisexuality was always just on the surface, and it never really explored that side to himself. All throughout the movie, we get these hints of his sexual relationships with men. Matt Bomer plays a character earlier in the movie who is having a sexual relationship with Leonard. Around the halfway mark, after he's been married to Felicia, had kids, he is still spending lots of his time intimately with other men. Gideon Glick, who I have had a crush on for so many years, let me tell you, he plays a much younger man who an older Leonard kind of falls for and spends a lot of time with. And I feel like Glick might get even more screen time in this than Bomer, but neither relationship is explored that well. We get these little hints along the way, mostly visually, about how much Leonard cares for these men, but they're always so one note. We don't get much time with them like as a unit, with Leonard, and how he's feeling about this relationship with a man while he's still married to Felicia, and how she feels about the bisexuality. Like, it's of course part of this real conductor's life, and so it needed to be in the movie, but I did feel like the screenplay could have gone much deeper into those relationships. Especially with this movie being a period film, exploring homosexual relationships, like in the 1940s, in the 1960s and 70s. There was room in this movie for Cooper to give us more insight into those relationships. I mean, it didn't need to be a 3-hour movie, but it is about 2 hours and 10 minutes, and another 10 to 15 minutes giving us more scenes with Matt Bomer, Gideon Glick. I think that would have enhanced the movie by a lot. I think there was more emotion in the narrative to explore there, and these boyfriends he had could have been much more three-dimensional. So ultimately, I would call Maestro a very good movie. I wouldn't call it a great movie. It's not like a 9 out of 10 level. Again, the third act, as well acted as it is, felt a little familiar. It made my reaction to the movie when it ended a little bit tempered. When like 30 minutes in, an hour in, I was thinking this could be as good as like my top 5 of the year. And then it just dipped for me in quality a little bit. That might not be the case for you. Maybe you will adore the third act and kind of the quiet nature of it and where everything goes with Felicia and Leonard. But I just was like, I feel like I've seen this before. But overall, this is very much worth seeing. The performances in this film, especially from its two leads, Cooper and Mulligan, are exceptional. Like, they are doing terrific work in this movie. Cooper's direction is terrific. He takes a lot of chances as a filmmaker in Maestro and has committed some extraordinary scenes to celluloid, especially that conducting scene, all done in one shot. It knocked me out. At the Oscars, I do believe Maestro is going to get into Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, and probably Best Original Screenplay. At least 2 or 3 technical categories. It's probably winning Best Makeup and Hairstyling, and I do think Bradley Cooper is finally going to win his Academy Award in the Best Actor category. Despite a couple major issues I had with the film overall, Maestro is a very good movie. Go check it out. I give this film a 7.5 out of 10. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of Maestro, and how many Oscar nominations do you think it's going to receive. We'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.